is there something kind of sneakily profound buried in all the gore? And I'm going to say yes. That's the case I'm going to make for you today. I'm going to say that horror makes us ask questions that we are very uncomfortable asking in any other setting, except in the campy displacement that horror affords. And because of that, we can get to know ourselves better. We can tolerate our foibles better, and we can learn to love each other better.
The first time I watched this film, I was in college. I had weekdays off and my roommates were working. I would normally crack open a cold one after college classes and play some video games, but for some reason that day I felt like watching a movie instead. I had a Nitro Guinness like I always did, and since it was close to summer, I felt like watching a horror movie. I'll get to more into that later. Anyways, I don't remember exactly why I picked Hereditary. My circle of friends weren't exactly into horror films or watching these kinds of movies, but I really liked Toni Collette and figured, what the hell. I sat after class with the sun going into the room. Throughout the film, the sun started to go down and it grew darker. I was all by myself, and eventually the only thing illuminating the room was a small light from the movie. I finished the film and was just stuck in shock over what happened and why. I didn't have anyone to discuss the film with or why it ended the way it did. I couldn't even recommend this film to anyone else because at the time there weren't a lot of fucked up types of horror films I knew about, and I really wasn't in a good place with my family or friends. All I could do was wallow in my own suffering and think about what this movie meant to me. 15 years ago, I was an absolute scaredy cat about horror films, even just CGI and 3D stuff in general. I watched the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience as a kid, and when the lion jumps at you with the 3D glasses on, I nearly shit myself. After having a lot of morbid friends who were very into horror films, I figured I should try to get over my fear. I spent an entire summer getting free horror films at the public library to try to get over it. Anything that looked scary or I had heard of before, I was getting. Anything from The House on Haunted Hill to Ginger Saps to Saw 5. After that summer, it ended up kind of being an annual tradition of watching new horror films in the summer and then watching old or new favorites with friends and family during Spooktober. So when I tell you that watching Hereditary alone was insanely scary, it's not because I don't tolerate horror films well. It was because that film is incredibly horrifying. Spoilers ahead and stuff. God, why is this film on the list? After the last two movies, it's not really easy to tell what a twisted I can be and what kinds of movies actually entertain me. I have since watched Hereditary about 5 times. 3 or 4 times with other people, a couple times by myself, including when they brought it back to the theaters in IMAX. So why is this movie so scary to me? Well, first of all, horror is subjective. Gore is scary to some, whereas commitment can be scary to others. At the beginning of this video, a clip played from Steve Schlotzman's TED Talk about what horror film teaches us about ourselves. The reason why I bring this up is because of Hereditary's underlying meaning to me. For a quick synopsis, a family goes through 2 deaths in the family, and then they start dealing with the undead. It's a bit more complicated than that, with like a cult involved, weird demons, naked people, and other stuff, but that's sort of the whole thing. When I saw it at the time, I had a younger sister who was very much like the little girl in the movie. Dressed about the same, had similar drawing and acting tendencies. It was easy to relate to her brother and his lack of compassion and empathy when I abandoned my own family to go to school. The entire film is about loss, just as all of Ari Aster films are about, and a child's relationship with their own mother. Either it being Toni Collette's relationship with their own mom, or Alex Wolff's relationship to Toni Collette, or whatever, you know the characters. The underlying meaning behind the terrifying demon scenes, or the possession scenes, or the naked people, is all about the mother and the child. Without going into too much detail of my life, this film terrified me in that way. It was like everything all at once had a child with The Exorcist. Maybe me and Ari Aster just need to go get therapy. Besides what impact this film made on me emotionally, some of the other cool aspects and what makes this film my favorite film at number 8 is the effects. They are just absolutely insane. There are people on fire, the smashing the door and the head into the door, her head cut off. I mean, her head cut off. Like, talk about a major fuck in a major movie. There's a lot of head cutting in the film's surprising ending, all for Paimon at the end of the movie. Talk about another fucked up bit is the cult that Toni Collette's mom's a part of. Cults in themselves can be horrifying or funny if you've seen that one Netflix show, but the secrecy of what lies in the cult is played out so well in this film. You get little snippets of it while looking in the background throughout the beginning of this movie. The acting has obviously been talked about before too, but here you have an amazing Toni Collette doing the Lord's work of being in Ari Aster's first major film. Her and Alex Wolff really just make an amazing family who have been through terrible times together. Lots of amazing acting throughout, beautiful lighting, and special effects. The first half of the film tends to start off a little like a drama, but please get to at least the party scene and the rest of the film picks up from there. As somebody who's seen this film a couple of times, I still am trying to piece together what ends up happening at the end. Spoilers again if you're actually going to watch this movie. Toni Collette's mom ends up possessing her body towards the end of the film in this weird head cutting on the ceiling scene that will never not terrify me, and finding a way to murder her grandson and have his sister take over his body, who at this point has been dead for about half of the movie. But the cult followers end up bowing down to her being the little girl as Paimon. Basically, it seems that Paimon, who's like a demon, is an ancestor of Toni Collette's family, hence, quote, hereditary. But his soul can only be passed down into the male body characters, which isn't entirely explained, but that's why the girl dies at the end of in the middle of the movie, and then her brother dies, and all that stuff happens. I do like the sense that there is some stuff that's not entirely explained, like why they're following this cult and what this actually has to do with the family. Obviously, besides the mother being a part of this cult, but there are a lot of little details you can pick up throughout the film and that other YouTubers have discussed at plenty. I just want to say why I love this movie so much and why, even if you aren't a big fan of horror movies, you should still definitely check it out as a family drama. And so the film ends up with all the people on side of the cult dead and or headless, and the Paimon lineage is continued. Man, I really like bleak endings, huh? If you like to torture your family with the good time, or you have a terrible relationship with your mother, you should definitely check this film out. I know Midsommar tends to be the more popular Ari Aster film, but I cannot highly recommend this film enough. Be sure to check out my other favorite films of all time if you just started this episode, and be sure to check out my first one and my second of my top 10 favorite films of all time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.